Worksheet A1. This is the beginning of your improvisational journey. We start with scales. Scales are the basis of music. Scales is your foundation. Scales is your starting point. From scales you go into chords, and then you build on chords. Then you start adding all the other stuff. But you have to start with scales and chords. So I'm going to be playing in the key of C just because it's an easy key to play in and I don't have to worry about sharps and flats and all of that stuff. So the C scale, those are the notes that we're going to be working with. But when you first start improvising, when you first start making things up, you don't want to have to deal with 8 notes or 16 notes or 20 notes or whatever. You want to start with just a few notes. So in the key of C, we're using the notes of the C scale. Our home base is the C. That's the note we're going to keep coming back to keep ourselves stable, to keep ourselves secure and grounded. So we keep coming back to the C's, the first note of the scale. No matter what key you're in, the first note of the scale is your grounding note. That's the note you keep coming back to. So to start with, you want to start with just a very small range. Start with maybe even just 3 notes, C, D, and E. And then play those 3 notes. You can do a lot with just 3 notes. And just kind of wander around with those 3 notes. Keep coming back to your C. Okay? And then when you get so that you can do that with either hand, just making things up, changing rhythmic values for interest, doing some long notes, some short notes. And remember, we're learning therapeutic music, so we don't want to go wild and crazy. We want to keep it kind of slow, pretty simple. We don't want to be doing complex things. So we've got this going on here. Do it with both hands, do it one hand at a time, and then start thinking musical conversation. Think of your right hand saying something, and then the left hand answering it. Your left hand can echo it as a complete echo, or it can do the opposite direction. The right hand can make a statement, the left hand can go, "Are you sure?" Now that's not done yet, right? So the right hand says it again, and then the left hand says, "Okay, I guess that's okay. We can do that." So your hands can agree, they can disagree, they can do all sorts of different patterns. Have one hand repeat a pattern while the other hand does other patterns. Come back to C to be done. Okay, so just lots of little things that you're improvising, that you're just making up, just with 3 notes. And then when you get so that you can do something with 3 notes, then expand into 4 notes, into 5 notes, and until you're using the entire octave. And then you can make your questions and your responses to be a lot more interesting. But start with just a small range, doing that conversation. Once you get into where you're playing several notes, maybe using the whole scale, your foundational notes, your home base notes, will still be C, the first note of the scale, but you can also use the 5th note of the scale as a base, as a home base to come back to, just to keep secure of where you are. I ended on the 5th note there. Ended on the 1st note, ended on the C, because then I know where I am and I'm not going to lose my footing. And you'll keep yourself grounded. When you're first starting to improvise, keep yourself grounded. The pentatonic scale is a fun scale to play in. You really can't go wrong with the pentatonic scale. Now there are several ways here for, on a harp, creating the pentatonic scale. Find the one that fits the way that you've got your harp tuned. Okay, I've got this harp tuned at E flat, so I'm going to be using sub point 3 and D because my harp is tuned in E flat. So I'm going to take all the levers down first. And then I'm going to raise just the D and the G levers. And then you can do the glissando and you've got this beautiful sound. And you can't go wrong. Everything sounds great. Okay, so find a note to start on. I'm going to start with the A and the E strings as my left hand drone. The left hand is just going to play that note, A and E. And the right hand is going to wander around. So we're just wandering around. And you can experiment with one hand by itself, you can experiment with both hands together. I'm just playing random strings. I'm not really even planning anything. And you can see that it sounds beautiful. This is a scale you can keep coming back to when you start doing like hospice pain relief and you don't want to have a defined melody, you just want to have gentle notes playing. Go to a pentatonic scale and you can play for a long time just doing this, and it's very soothing and comforting. Okay, so pentatonic scale. Play with the pentatonic scale. It's wonderful. After you've played with all of those things, make a recording for your mentor and send it in to her or him and let them give you some feedback on it. I think you'll find that the pentatonic scale is a wonderful scale to play in and very easy to improvise and make things up. Chord tones and target notes. I'm going to retune my harp to the key of C now. Reset the levers. In any scale, you're going to have certain chords that you will be using a lot. And those are your home base chords. The one chord, of course, the chord built on the first note of the scale is your home base chord. So we're going to start by working just with that chord. So in the key of C, C, E, and G is your C chord. That's your one chord. When you're improvising, making things up, and you're wandering and you kind of get lost and you don't know where you are, come back to either the C, the E, or the G, and it gets you back to home base. And then you can start again. Now I'm kind of lost there. I don't know what that is. So I'm going to go either to an E, a C, or a C, an E, or a G. There, now I'm back to home base. Okay. So those are the notes that you'll use. Whatever chord you're playing in the left hand, if you're doing a left hand accompaniment, come back to one of the notes that is in that chord and you'll feel like you're back at home base. So always keep in mind, okay, I'm playing a C chord, I'm going to be using the C, the E, and the G. Okay. So play around with that. In 3/4 time, again, your bass is going to be the root of the chord. Usually, I give you your foundation. I'm playing the C and then the other two notes of the chord, the E and the G, afterwards. C, C, and then if I made something up, coming back on the down beats, the strong beats, I'm coming back to either a C, an E, or a G just to keep myself grounded. Those are your anchors. Use your anchors for stability. Playing with your eyes closed is a wonderful tool because it forces you to focus on just the notes that you're hearing. You take away the visual element and your brain has space to hear things that otherwise you might not hear if your eyes are open and watching your hands or watching the music. So you've got, and you might come up with some interesting sounds that you were not aware of or that are unexpected. if you got your eyes closed, it's pretty hard to find your home base, so just keep wandering until you find something that sounds okay. Oh, that sounded okay. Okay. So it's just a way to experiment. You don't have to send your mentor a recording of the eyes closed thing. This is just a practice tool for you to try and experiment with and see if you like it. See if it helps expand your awareness a little bit. Another thing to do if you're comfortable singing as you're playing is to sing while you're just making up an accompaniment with your left hand or with both hands, running chords and singing as you're playing, either a do-do-do or a la-la-la or whatever. And see what happens. This is all about experimentation. This is all about trying things. If it doesn't work, fine, no big deal. If it does work, you might explore and discover a new area of improvisation. So that's Worksheet A1. Be in touch with your mentor. Let her or him give you feedback, and don't be afraid to experiment and try things.